Okay, so Leetcode practice time. Merge sorted array. Two goals. So first one is to find the solution for this specific question, and the other thing is to see how to solve this problem during interview. So in the interview, always the first step is to clarify the question, try to understand it, and also think about the edge cases. So let's see what the question is asking us to do. So given two sorted integer arrays, nums1, nums2, merge nums2 into nums1 as one sorted array. And the number of elements initialized in nums1, nums2 are m and n respectively. And you may assume that nums1 has enough space to hold additional elements from nums2. Alright, so taking a look at the first example, suppose we have nums1 defined as 1 to 3, and the rest of the zeros are placeholders, and nums2 defined as an array containing 3 integers 2, 5, and 6. After we merge, we will get 1, 2, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, so I think we are pretty clear about this question. Let's think about some edge cases. So it gives some constraints. Let's say m and n are between 0 to 200, which means the input is always valid. If you want to consider like some edge case, for example, if m is equal to 0 or n is equal to 0, it could be considered as edge case as well, but it doesn't give us any surprise actually. And also we define nums1.length is equal to m plus n, which means we always have enough room to store the numbers to merge nums2 into nums1, and each number within the two arrays are within -1 billion to 1 billion. Okay, so the solution I think is pretty clear to me. So we are going to do we are going to keep 2 pointers to iterate through the two arrays in a interleaving way. So let me explain how to do it like in a interleaving way. Let's say we take the first example, nums1 as this, and we take the second one, nums2 defined as 2, 5, and 6. So we are going to keep 2 pointers, P2 and P1. So P1 points to numbers within nums1, and similar for P2. So at the very beginning, P1 points to the last real number in nums1, and similar for P2. We do the comparison for number at P1 and number at P2. So if the number at P2 is larger than number at P3, which is the case in this input example, then we put the number and okay, so we also need to have a global iterator which keeps track of what number we are going to put there. So the iterator is initialized at the end of nums1, and when we do the comparison, we see that the number at P2 is larger than the number at P1. So that's the number we are going to put at the last of nums1. So now the array looks like this. We are going to decrease iter and decrease P2 as well. And then we do the comparison, we see that 5 is larger than 3. So that's the number we are going to put as at iter at the end of nums1. And then we decrease iter and P2, and we see okay, now we have 3 to be larger than 2. Then we are going to put 3 here. So on and so forth. Finally, we are going to definitely get a the nums2 merged into nums1, and the runtime for this algorithm is gonna be O m plus n, because we are going to do one pass for nums1 and nums2. So after we find the solution and do the corresponding runtime analysis, we are going to do some coding work. So for this one, let's do some coding. So in the coding part, we care about the code correctness and the readability. Like we said, we are going to define two pointers, p1 initialized as m minus 1, and p2 define as n minus 1 at the very beginning, and the global iterator is defined as m plus n minus 1. So, well, the p1 is larger or equal to 0, and p2 is larger or equal to 0. We are going to do the comparison between nums1 p1 and the nums2 p2. So if nums1 p1 is the larger number, that's the number we are going to put at the end of the array currently, which is we are going to put nums1 iter is equal to nums1 p1. Otherwise, we are going to put nums2 p2 at nums1 iter. Alright, so this is not enough, because if we end up having p2, we end up having p1 as smaller than 0, which means we have go over nums1 input array, but we haven't go over nums2 input array. We still need to put the rest numbers from nums2 into nums1. So now we would do is we would put p2. So we haven't done the decreasing of the iter and p1 p2 as well, so we are going to fix this. So p2 is larger or equal to 0, then we are going to put nums1 iter minus minus is equal to nums2 p2 minus minus. So that should finish the code at this moment, and let's take a look. So let's say we have 4, 5, 0, 0 defined for nums1, and for nums2 it would be 1 and 2. So at the very beginning, p1 is defined as 1 and p2 defined as 1 as well. So iter is defined as 3, and we step into this while loop. We compare 5 and 2, and we see, okay, 5 is larger, then we put 5 here, decrease p1, and then we compare 4 with 2, 4 is larger, then we put 4 here, and also we decrease my p1. Okay, so now we have p1 as minus 1, which is smaller than 0. Then we step out of this while loop. We step into the final while loop here. So we don't do comparison at all here. We are going to directly move we are going to move 2, copy 2 to be here. Okay, so I forgot to decrease the iterator when we go through this piece of code for this example, but currently iter should be as 1. We are going to put 2 here and decrease iter as 0, and we put the 1 here and decrease the iter correspondingly. And finally, we have completely copied over nums2 and make sure that it is still in sorted order in the nums1. So let's run this piece of code. Okay, so I think it should be good, and that's it for this coding question. I hope you like this video. If you find it a bit helpful, please give me a thumb up, and I'll see you next time.